Alright everyone, a busy one today. Jota has returned, Kyogo has departed, and Celtic face Aston Villa tomorrow. And we have Stevie and Asim on joining me today. Hello lads.
Take it away, Stevie.
Everyone, hello. I think this is the first time I've been on with Asim since July 2022 after Aberdeen. I think we won 2-0. And
How would you even know that?
Stevie and his dates, it's incredible, isn't it? Your memory for
Creepy.
dates.
It's creepy.
and anyway, do you know who scored a great goal that day? Jota.
Jota.
What game
What was
was
the
it?
score? I think it was at 2-0, the opening day. Yeah. And
Okay.
that where was that? What's that establishment? Babbity.
Gravity.
Babbles.
Yeah. Aye.
The
Good
glorious
times.
days. Listen, good to have you both on, guys. I thought I'd get you both on because it is, there's a lot happening, so I wanted a lot of discussion on various things. We'll start with the sad, okay, because I think it's fair to say one of the greatest Celtic strikers we'll each have seen has now departed the club. Yes, Rennes have confirmed the signing of Kyogo Furuhashi for a reported £10 million. He leaves us after scoring 85 goals across 165 matches, including 8 derby goals. I think 7 of them in the one calendar year. He also had 11 against Hearts, that was the team he scored most against, and 3 in the UEFA Champions League. He won 8 domestic trophies in Scotland and helped us to the UEFA Champions League knockouts this season. Probably goodbye forever to Kyogo, but recent events tell us that maybe one day we'll see him back. Stevie, how are you feeling now that the news has been confirmed?
I think it's more how the audience feeling that they don't need to hear me say Furuhashi every week anymore. But on this one, I'll call him Kyogo out of respect. All right. I'm pretty sad about it, and it's weird though. Like I was saying, I think Celtic will first and foremost recover. I think the fans will recover, and the big thing for me is, after seeing Henrik Larsson depart and thinking we're going to, I think my wee juvenile brain at the time, and some would say it still is that way, but I thought, thanks Hamish, I thought, after Larsson, I thought the glory days are over and we're really going to struggle as a club because he dragged us through so many games on his own at times. I mean, I can go through so many over the 7 years he was here. And arguably Kyogo did the same for us, especially at times in the first season under Ange, second season especially. But it's also that way where when you've put away, like when you've seen what Celtic have done after Henrik and the total dominance we've been involved in, you do feel that the club are in a good position. You know what I mean? We are fully on top, and I do trust them to recruit wisely. I do, so that we can continue that dominance. I don't think they're going to take the foot off the pedal here in this one at all. So that's the way I feel. I think it's really, first and foremost, it's about the club and pressing on and always improving. But aye, human element to me here is totally gutted that he left in that fashion, and it's a shame. It would have been great to, get a big cheerio to him. I think it would have been brilliant, and I think every fan would have wanted that. It's not to be, and the main thing is he'll see it as he helped us, Hamish, get through to the playoffs, the knockout rounds, which is just as important, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's two parts to ask him. Like, there's the part Stevie talks about where you're sad to see a player that you've loved and idolised for 3.5 years move on, and that always hurts. But there's also maybe the kind of part about what Celtic do next and how you feel, and if you feel we can actually replace Kyogo.
Yeah, and I think we got Kyogo in his absolute prime, in his peak years. 3.5 years he's gave us. When you read his kind of roll of honour there, like you did, it really hits home just how imperative he's been for us over these last few seasons. Um, and he just had such a good relationship and connection with all the fans. So I agree with Stevie. I think the sad part is that we didn't get to do a proper send off, and a kind of farewell. But he's given us a right good, memory, so many good memories. In terms of, yeah, I think Larson's in a completely different sphere. I'm sure you'll agree, Stevie. I remember crying on Larson's final home game against Dundee United, and I don't think I'll ever feel the same about a player again. But I think the argument there that a lot of people agree with is Kyogo's probably been the best since, and he's given us that longevity that the likes of maybe Musa Dembele and others didn't. And I think just his personality was infectious. So yeah, it was kind of bittersweet feelings today when you seen the two announcements side by side.
I mean, you take yourself back to when Kyogo signed and the state we were in as a club after the COVID season that was just so unbelievably grim, and like even away from the football, just how bad a time that was. I know, Stevie, you agree with that more than most, but I mean, all joking aside, it was a pretty horrible time, and like Kyogo for me was like almost like the light at the end of the tunnel for the new Celtic under Ange Postecoglou, and I think he'll always be that to me. Like, remember he was announced. I think he was announced. We woke up to his signing announcement, and a lot of us hadn't even have heard of him, and suddenly he was just signed. And then he obviously pretty much right from the start, he was brilliant. That game against Dundee was unbelievable. And I know he maybe wasn't the same player under Brendan Rodgers, but he still scored a lot of goals. He was still like such a reliable goal scorer in derby games, Champions League games, all the way up until the end, basically. I know he didn't score against Young Boys, but I mean, his performance that night was great. The obvious thing here to do is to pick our favourite Kyogo goal each. So, what are you thinking, Stevie?
Well, earlier speaking to Reeds about my 3 favourite moments, so I'll go with number one goal was, but also what it meant, which was the winner in the 2021 League Cup final with a lobbed goal over against Hibs. And I think while that was an instinctive finish and aesthetically amazing, and it's one of the ones you can watch it time and time again and go, wow, the technique in that, it's just genius. The quick thinking alone of Rogic helped too, but more importantly, it was that goal really kick-started Celtic's dominance in this era, what we're seeing, and it was that goal that team needed, that League Cup final win. Ange Postecoglou needed it. I think every Celtic fan was dying to see Ange as a winner. We were dying to see certain players who had a rocky start, such as Carol Starfelt, turn into winner, and then that goal just was the real, it was a springboard for that team to develop a real winning mentality, and that's why they won a double that season, treble the next season. There's certainly other players as well that benefited all from that, and again, that goal from Kyogo was just so important, and that's what I'm going with, both in terms of what it meant and just how great it was really on that stage.
Obviously, I don't want to spoil Gig Pod, and people can listen to, I believe, 2 different podcasts on Gig Pod. But what were your other moments for Kyogo?
Well, I have to look at it and remind myself again.
It's so long ago, wasn't it? So long ago you recorded.
Listen, I'm getting older now. I also said, another important. I won't go into it too much and the reasons for it, but the goal that you didn't celebrate in the pub 2-2 against Rangers, which pretty much cemented the league in the second season, like that, and it was the big thing for Kyogo as well, because that was the start of him completely bodying Rangers for seasons to come. And also said the last one was the goal against Hearts last season. Matt O'Reilly's amazing pass and the way that he kept his eye on it and put it past Clark in goal. You know what I mean? That was one of the best I've seen. It was more probably the assist, but that assist needed a finish, and it was an absolute cracker. So they were my 3.
Okay. Any other ones, Asim?
I think the one against Rangers last season, the one at Celtic Park, date-wise, Stevie, you'll need to help me out. The 2-1 game.
December 2023.
Was it that one? The one where we should have passed it. I was screaming it for him to pass it in, and then he took it on his left foot and top bag. Brilliant finish, absolutely stunning goal. And that was a crucial game for us because, we had to win that. If it's a game, is it the one in December? Is that the 2-1 game or not?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, fantastic finish. That was up there. The Hibs one that you've mentioned, Stevie.
The first goal in that Hibs game was unbelievable.
Yeah. And we went one down, didn't we? And we straight away went up and scored. So it was crucial. And as Stevie mentioned, the beginning of the dominance, firstly under Ange, and then that Brendan's carried on. So significant in that sense. And then for just the kind of quality, also the goal at Ibrox in the 1-0 game last season. It was just the sheer silence as well, because obviously there's no fans right on half time, and you're almost like waiting for a whistle to go to rule it off or rule it out or something. But fantastic technique and finish. And when you look back at his compilation, some of his finishes were sublime. Quiz question for you, though. Do you remember who his first goal was against?
And I'll allow that man to pronounce it, because they do a brilliant pronunciation here.
Jablonic.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a wee
Brilliant.
chip, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
I
Right,
think you could tell straight away how gifted he was, though, just even with that technique in that game. So
yeah,
yeah, brilliant.
I'll add in Ferencváros
Oh
game
yes,
at Celtic Park, the pass from Jota and the finish. That for me is the most aesthetically pleasing Kyogo goal. I really loved his goal against Atletico Madrid as well. I know we didn't win that game, but the thing I'll remember about Kyogo is probably his movement. I think he's arguably the best movement we've ever seen at Celtic. Maybe Henrik Larsson was pretty good as well. And there was a few other ones, but you know what I mean. Like certainly over the past 20 years, I mean Kyogo has the best movement I've ever seen at Celtic. And that Atletico game just summed it up against an elite team. And obviously the pass from O'Reilly makes it, but the finish was great as well. So that's it, guys. Any compilations you seen, Stevie, of Kyogo with Rihanna's diamonds in the background?
I was about to say, and cranberries linger and all that. And
Adele. There was an Adele one as well. I'm sure someone like you.
I've any like time I've seen one come up like for just a couple of seconds, I'm clicking away for it. I can't be annoyed with that at all. Sorry.
What, do you get too emotional or just
I
out?
I feel it's a young man's game. I see, man. I'm past all that. I've got it all up here.
God, you're such a bundle of joy, Stevie.
Don't worry about that.
Right, okay. Hopefully Stevie's mood's going to improve because we're going to chat about the good news, which is Jota returning. Celtic announced Jota's return yesterday. He signed a 5.5-year contract as he looks to add to the 5 trophies he's already won at Celtic. Now, there was a fan media press conference earlier today. Asim, you were there for a Celtic state of mind. You even managed to get a photo with Jota, kinda.
So I don't think he knew much about it.
How was that?
He was in good spirits. You know, Jota, if you remember from last time, he was always great with the media. You know, he's always open. You know, he's charming. So great chat, and he actually mentioned one of the questions he was asked was about Kyogo, and they had such a good connection, the two of them. And he said he would be sad that he's not going to be able to carry that on, but it's just funny how football works. But yeah, he was looking good. He's excited to be back. Brilliant to see him. Honestly, it's surreal. I honestly did not see this coming. If you said to me a week ago, this is what would be happening, I would not have believed it at all. But brilliant news for Celtic. Hopefully, brilliant news for Jota as well. And you know, the only thing is, I think he was keen to mention that he's obviously not played a lot of football. So he's not had match sharpness and fitness, and he mentioned that a couple of times. So I think maybe just to temper fans' expectations that, you know, I think it might take him a while to get up to speed. He looked a bit slimmer as well. So it might be a case of like Nicholas Kuhn last year, you know, just kind of bed him in, and I'm sure he'll be back to his best before long.
Well, here are some of the best bits of that press conference, courtesy of the legends at GigPod.
Feels amazing. Feels like home. Feels like the time has stopped, and that I just activated the button and okay, it's on again. So I don't know. Today going to Lennoxtown was just like, whoa! It seems like I've never left. You know, the people, the place itself, the training. It was just like a really good feeling for me, and I was really happy, to be fair. And just can't wait to start to play and to enjoy. Celtic as a club has a very specific way of playing and living Celtic, if you know what I'm saying. Obviously, like players and managers, they will change, but the philosophy of Celtic will always be here. And obviously, like only 9 or 10 players stayed since the last time, so there's a big change. There are some guys that I don't know. I will still need to get to know the lads. And as soon as we can all connect, I think it will be very good. And with the manager, I've had a couple of talks with him, and I really like the approach he had to the game. So interesting things coming. Obviously, like the numbers, they don't lie. I haven't played consistency for a long time, and there's no amount of training that will give you what the game gives to you. So obviously, like there will be a time that I will need just to gain the physical aspect of it. But I believe that after that, and once it flows, it will come naturally, and good things will happen.
Delighted to have you back, Jota.
Thank you.
You said you're not on social media much, but I can assure you the Celtic fans have been going crazy with your return. We also have another Portuguese star in the side as well now, in Paulo Bernardo.
Yeah.
Is that someone who you know well and have spoke to about when you're talking about coming back?
Yeah, so Paulo is someone that I played when I was in Benfica. And when he signed for Benfica, I also kept in touch with him, saying that whatever he needs, that I will be here to help. And he was coming to a very big club, and he would love the experience. And it's funny how the life works in mysterious ways, because 1 year and a half later, we get together. And we get the opportunity to play together. So to play with another Portuguese guy in here, it's really amazing. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier there's still obviously some players here from your time before as well. Have you been watching much of Celtic recently? Have you been keeping up with their games? I think you mentioned you've seen the Ross County match, and likewise the Champions League. Have you been following Celtic?
Yeah, every time I got the opportunity to watch Celtic, I would, because obviously I had a lot of friends in here, so I wanted to see how they were doing, and because Celtic was such an amazing experience that I just wanted to root for them. So yeah, I've been watching the lads.
Yeah. Last one from me. What would you say you missed most about Celtic in Glasgow?
About Celtic, it's the atmosphere of the games, the sensation that it gives. People keep on asking me but how is it? And it's difficult for me to say, because it's something that you really need to live it in order to say to it. Even though I know for the fans it's something amazing, but being a football player and being there fighting and scoring and doing stuff, it's something spectacular. So I would say the atmosphere in Celtic Park and Glasgow. I miss the people. I think the people in Glasgow, it's the best thing of Glasgow. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, they should really make up some sort of tagline about people making Glasgow or something. Big thanks to Stevie and GigPod, as I say, for sending that on. Stevie says it feels like home, and it's like he never left. Good to have him back.
Oh, definitely. I think we still got him at a good age. It's not like he's came back over the hill, you know what I mean? And he's still in. I hear what Asim's saying as well about his physique, but I mean, let's be honest, he's not exactly like me or anything, is it? It could be worse. So I think Asim makes a good point. And I said this as well to Reeds on a couple of others. With a current situation, I think we'll probably get the best of him next season. I think he'll need a real strong pre-season, but there's no there's he can definitely still contribute this season. I would even say maybe Sunday. I don't know if that's too soon for him, but I would certainly have him involved. But no, it's an amazing feeling to have him back. Just seems lifted. The main thing is his attitude as well. It's not like he's coming here one of the ones where he's just found something to do into it. He is genuinely dying to be here and contribute again. Seems to really connect with the club, and he's always connected with the fans, and hopefully we might even see a more improved version of him under Brendan Rodgers. If you look at what Rodgers done with Nicholas Kuhn, I mean, what he could potentially do with Jota as well, it's really exciting. But I'm buzzing to have him back. There's certain players that that were linked ways in the past. In fact, even a few weeks ago, I'd heard people mentioning Edward, and while I think Edward was a good player for us, I don't think he would fit into this Celtic side, who are a relentless pressing machine. Personally, I don't think Edward would fit into it, but I think we remember under Ange that Jota, in that front three that he was playing in, Jota was a real sort of pressing machine, and he really bought into that system. And it's a big reason why we won a double and a treble, with his mentality and his attitude and how well he could fit into that. So looking forward to seeing how adaptable he is to the Brendan system. And yeah, as you say, I'm just glad to have him back. I think it's really good news for the club.
Yeah, I mean, he's just such a great player. I mean, the reaction to it's been so positive. As you say, often when players come back, there will be people saying, we shouldn't be going back and re-signing players. I've not seen anyone really saying that, because I think everyone knows what an amazing player he was. But like he worked so hard as well. Like I saw some people saying that he was a bit of a luxury player, and like I totally disagree with that. Like he wouldn't have succeeded in an Ange Postecoglou team if he was a luxury player. Like he worked so hard, and the other thing I loved was he dug in. Remember some of like his big moments? They came away in Scottish grounds that you'd be thinking a Portuguese winger would not fancy. Kind of similar to Nicholas Kuhn, to be honest. A lot of his big moments come away in these grounds, and Jota. I remember like Ross County, and I remember a goal scored like Dundee and stuff.
Sure
St Mirren.
there was a game where he was playing terribly. I think he was having a shocker, but second half just came good and managed to get a goal. And yeah, I think we've seen the best of Jota as the more time went on. I thought he really kind of grew, even in a kind of defensive way. I thought you're right. He worked really hard, and just became a kind of real talisman of the side. And he mentioned today, obviously he's had a really tough 18 months from a professional football side of things, and he kind of mentioned that it's been challenging for him, but he feels he's not one of those that has any regrets. I think he's quite a deep thinker, and I think he feels that everything happens for a reason. He's went and he's came back, and I think he's going to be hungry to kind of get back playing. And I think he missed playing for a passionate fan base and full house and European football, all that kind of stuff. He even mentioned he watched the Ross County game, the most recent one, and he was talking about the pitch and he was having a laugh about that. So he knows what Scottish football is like. He knows the ups and downs and the challenges he's going to face. But I think we're going to see an improved one once he's up to match speed fitness.
The prospect to him and Nicholas Kuhn on either wing is just tantalising, and that's, as I say yesterday, before we even get to Maida and James Forrest. So it's just, you're almost, if Tierney's possibly coming back, you're just a striker away from having an unbelievable Celtic team here, Stevie. Even you must be, very excited.
But yeah, I think the club now have to take all this adulation and applaud it, and they deserve it. But now they have to focus on a striker. That's key, because like tomorrow we're going into it, and I think the deadline's on Monday, isn't it? Like that will fly in, and it's not just about getting a striker. It's about getting a really good quality striker in, and that's going to be a challenge for them. They've already spent a significant amount of money on Adamida, and I think we can do far better this window. And there's a lot of clubs out there that aren't going to want to be sold their star striker, their top assets round about this time of the season, in January. So it's that one where Celtic have said in the past it's a very difficult window to do business in, which I believe to an extent, but when it comes to actually getting in a top quality striker, a player that can possibly fit up to the billing of somebody like Kyogo Furuhashi, they're going to have their work cut out, but they're capable of doing it. They've invested very well, they've recruited very well in the past, and they have to get this one right before Monday, Hamish. But I'm excited.
Okay, would you settle for like a loan player, Asim, or do you feel it has to be sorted this one? I guess it has to be a really good striker, doesn't it? Because Kyogo was really good.
Yeah, I was encouraged by Rodgers' comments on the press conference of Friday, where he kind of said, when he was asked whether Maida was an option, and he kind of outright said, nah, I'm looking to bring in a striker. He didn't bat it off with, that's something that we could look at, or he was quite adamant he wants a striker in. He said, obviously, that he's known about Kyogo wanting away for a couple of months. So to me, it sounds like we look prepared for once. Which well, I say for once, but obviously we're going way back where we weren't. But it looks in the last couple of windows that we are much more organised. As Stevie says, there's been criticism as to people saying, "Oh, I've seen Chris Sutton say it. It's a silly move to let Kyogo go." The player wanted away, but I think all will come down to whether we replace him, and that's what it's going to come down to. I think this window will be determined whether we get a striker in now. Obviously, we hope Kieran Tierney, we can get him in early. But a loan move for me won't cut it. I think we need to be looking at getting this long-term successor, and we can bed him in. Hopefully the league's kind of in the bag, and then we can have that player ready for the summer qualifiers, etc. So I think Chris Garden seems like the most kind of hottest link, and for me that's the kind of level and kind of player that we should be looking at.
You hearing anything about him, Stevie? He's. Were you saying to me he's a kind of similar player to Kyogo?
No, that wasn't me. I've never seen him. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm not going to lie on the channel, and I'm not going to patronise the audience. I've heard of him. I've heard of him for the past 2 seasons, but I don't know how he plays, and I don't know about his style. The only thing I did hear, I could get what you mean, Hamish. I know what you mean, because I did forward on to you. From what I heard, is we've been looking
All right,
at
so I'm not
strikers.
making it all up.
No,
Stephen,
no,
man.
no.
Hung me out to dry there.
No, you're not making it up. I know what you mean now. The private conversation where someone did say to me, we've been looking at a player similar or potentially Chris Garden for the past few weeks. But in terms of me and asking me about him, one of the ones, Hamish, for a YouTube compilation, just won't cut it. I need to see how they play for Celtic in the first few games before I make a mind up on them.
Yeah,
we shall see. But I've certainly heard enough about him.
Yeah, I mean,
by all accounts, his style of play is kind of, he links up well. He's quite strong. He's not the tallest, so again, kind of similarities with Kyogo in that sense. So yeah, it seems like he's got the attributes. But as Stevie says, it's still a risk. But then any signing that we make now is going to be a risk, because we're essentially signing someone to replace one of the best strikers we've had in the last couple of decades. So it's big boots to fill. But the fact that he's now linked with a couple of German sides, for me, it could be a good or a bad thing. Good in the sense that he's obviously now catching the eye of, but some big clubs. But also, you wonder if we missed the boat, because we've been linked a couple of years ago. Where he was probably, people weren't willing to take that risk. He's obviously developed more and he's scoring more goals as well now. But by all accounts, that seems to be our main target.
Yeah, I mean, we've I think known about Kyogo leaving for a while, so hopefully the club are ready to spring into life. So that's a Danish-based player. We've also got Anthony Joseph saying that we are one of a number of clubs in Europe interested in Odense BK centre-back Tobias Slotziger. He's a Denmark under-21 international, out of contract in the summer, and it's understood initial talks have taken place with his representative. So that's one to keep an eye on. Kieran Tierney stuff still rumbling on. Either of you guys hearing anything about that? It's okay to say no.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing in the know, as they say. But I think it just looks like we're kind of down to what Arsenal decide with their left backs. I think that's what it's going to come down to. It might come down to the last day of the window and whether Arsenal decide to keep Zinchenko. I think we want him. That's clear, and I think he's obviously keen to come up as well. But yeah, we could be down to that. Your favourite guy, Mikel Arteta, and what he decides, Hamish.
Don't get me started on that guy. Right, okay, other manager news, just domestically. Stuart Kettlewell's resigned as Motherwell manager. We play them at Fir Park on Sunday, so I guess that'll be interesting. I believe they're talking potentially about Neil Lennon getting that job. I think Neil Lennon's linked with like any Scottish Premiership job. Be good to see him back though, wouldn't it? We need Lenny back in the top flight.
I don't know what I'd really like him as a pundit now. I think he's fantastic as a pundit, and he's one of the few in Sky that talk. He could be arguably the only one in Sky that talks nothing but sense, especially after like. I made a couple of them. Great guy. But no, I think Lennon's amazing to listen to after most games in Sky involving Celtic. So personally, I would hate to see him back in the biz, but at the same time, he has good part, isn't he?
Yeah, his box office. Okay, Scott Brown's been mentioned there as well. Right, before Sunday, we've got Villa on Wednesday at Villa Park. It's not a game where we need a result, guys, but it's one where I'd really like us to get a result. However, Jota can't play, Maida can't play, we don't have Kyogo anymore. So is it hard to see a positive result here, Asim, or is it still doable?
Very difficult. I think you take away Maida and Kyogo and you're severely weakening us. I just want to see us compete though again. You want to see a solid performance. Result wise, I don't think there's a lot of expectation, but we've done well before against English sides. And we've shown this season in the Champions League, the result we got in Italy against Atalanta, that surprised everyone. Villa, I watched them the other day, sorry, against West Ham. They weren't great, but they've got a lot of kind of pace and power, and that's something we sometimes struggle with. There's no jeopardy in it for us, but I think a performance and a result would go a long way into making us feel even more confident about this playoff. And obviously, a lot of it's going to come down to the draw and who we end up with. And strangely, I've seen some people say that a win might make us more likely to get a tougher draw. I think it's just too early to say. It'll all unfold on Wednesday night. So yeah, we just need to go out there, and put in a solid performance. I think I'll take that as the kind of bare minimum.
Yeah, they're clearly a decent side, Stevie. Mixed results recently. They drew with West Ham at the weekend, lost to Monaco prior to that, but drew away to Arsenal before that. So they've got a good result in them. And yeah, I guess the pressure's on them, but also we really don't want to go out and lose badly, because we know that that's not going to be good for the team. So how are you feeling?
I think it's going to be really difficult, and having watched Aston Villa, I think they're unbeaten as well at home, and the quality aside they've played. A couple of Italian sides, they drew with Juventus, beat Bologna, but I was really impressed with the way that they beat Bayern Munich as well. They relied on Martinez to bail them out a couple of times, but they really were intense, and they pressed really heavily against them. Won that midfield battle a few times. That was one of the ones I actually watched live on telly as well. So I think they're a really good side, and they'll be going all out, because that will take them up to 16 points, and they'll be going all out for top 8. I think they've got some fantastic players on that side as well. I'm sure most of the audience and you guys will know who exactly I'm on about, but I think Tielemans has been a standout for them this season. Just one pass, all it takes for him, kind of have a quiet game, one pass takes out an entire team, and just teeing it up for their strikers they've got, who are no mugs. So personally, I think it's going to be difficult, as Asim said, when we've got Kyogo and departed Maeda out. But yeah, at the same time, I really, really thought we were going to get thumped against Atalanta. I couldn't see anything but 3 points for them, and the manager pulled out the bag, and trusting Scales that night were great. So we'd be looking at a similar. You need every single player to be so well drilled, no mistakes whatsoever. You've got to hope Villa have an off night as well, and a few of their players, aren't at the races. There's a lot of sort of ingredients for us to get a result. It's not just a case of us playing really well, because Villa will be so motivated. But taking all that into account, I think the fact that Villa are going to be going all out for that win to seal that top 8, I think it's going to be a bridge too far for us. Hope I'm wrong. But even at that, as Asim also said, I just don't want to see us get humiliated if we can compete, and maybe we go down. But, it's not a total embarrassment. You'll take that every time, because the bare minimum has been achieved for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel. I think the fact that we don't need a result here, and they might work against us. But yeah, the fact we're missing Dies and Maeda is just huge, and obviously Kyogo as well. You're probably going to have Yang starting this game. And it's obviously a really big night for him then. But yeah, hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully Celtic can surprise us. I would say I think Atalanta are a better side than Villa personally, and I agree. I expect us to go over there and lose comfortably after the Dortmund game. And we were great that night defensively. So if we put in a similar defensive performance, get Kasper Schmeichel in goals, he's obviously very hard to beat at the moment. Then possible. I think we do have players who can hurt them. I think Nicholas Kuhn is a player who can get at them. Running into space clearly is a good thing. You need a big shift from Adam Ida, but I don't want to be too defeatist here, because I do believe in this Celtic team. But I do kind of feel like if we just really compete in the game and come away from the game feeling positive about things, I'd probably be happy enough with that. I think my fear would be here that we go into the game and don't have that intensity that we've had in Europe this season. Like maybe at Ibrox, what happened, maybe for some reason the players, just because we've already achieved what we wanted last week, they just don't play with that same intensity. I think that against a Villa team, playing with intensity, trying to finish in the top 8 at home with their fans behind them, could be a difficult night for us. But it could work the other way as well. They have the pressure on them. Maybe we go out with a bit of freedom and just play our stuff. And as I keep saying, I think we have players who can hurt them there.
It's a big game for our midfield. I think that's where Villa are probably strongest, with Tielemans, Kamara, and then the lad Rodgers in front of them. It's been really good for them this season as well. So it's and the likes of Arne Engels, up against his countrymen, he'll be keen to impress. These are the stages where even Hatate, who obviously feels he feels that he can play at that stage, and that's been kind of his goal for a while, is probably to move to a better league than Scotland, but he's not been consistent enough to show it. But this is a stage for him to come up with another big performance, and again, hopefully McGregor can prove some of his critics wrong that say in Europe in these kind of games he's not robust enough. So yeah, there's a lot at stake. I do feel the lack of Maida and Kyogo, that's going to be a big hindrance. I think if we had that
Yeah.
same team starting as last week, I'd feel a lot more kind of confident.
If you had Jota in there or Tierney in there, you'd be feeling
really fit,
great.
Yeah. But it would be amazing if we can make a statement victory. You know, I know it's a completely different team and landscape from what it was back in O'Neill's days, but you know, Stevie, you'll remember as well going to Anfield and Ewood Park and absolutely bossing those games, you know, and you'd love to see that against these English Premiership sides. And you know what? Who's to say we can't? We've shown, like you said, against probably a better side in Atalanta that we could compete, albeit it was very defensive. I think we'll have more chances in this game than we did that night. I think Villa will give up a few chances. West Ham created a lot at the weekend, and they're without Tyrone Mings, who got injured. I think they've got a couple of other defensive injuries. So, yeah, look, we've got nothing to lose in that sense. But, yeah, you just don't want a heavy defeat, and you want to be able to compete.
Okay. Final thoughts, Stevie, and then we'll let you both go to your bed.
If we get a penalty on Wednesday night, I don't know who's taking it, but it's going to be a big ask anyway against that keeper of theirs, because he's a bit of a specialist as well, isn't he? Martinez, so I don't fancy our chances even if we do get one. But the biggest thing is just not to get embarrassed. Like I felt so down after that Dortmund game, and the team have done so well to recover from that and gave the fans, you know, some pride again. We don't want to go back to that because it would kill momentum too. See if we took a doing and then we're getting into the playoffs. Like, okay, we've got players to come back, but you don't want to lose that momentum. You just don't. You don't want to go back to that, you know, reminder of the Dortmund game and what can happen. Like, the players are in a good place now and everybody at the club's feeling great. It would be rubbish to, you know, for all this positivity around Jota and just qualifying for the playoffs. It would be absolutely crap to be getting into that game and getting hammered again. So it's just something I really want to avoid, and yeah, that's the bare minimum I ask, really.
And who knows, that could be against Aston Villa. UEFA don't have anything to stop you playing a team you've already played, so it could be Dortmund. Who knows? Hopefully not. The draw for that's on Friday, by the way, everyone. So, yeah, pretty busy week between that, the game on Wednesday, the game at the weekend, transfer stuff as well. Big thanks, guys, for joining me. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, everyone. A reminder that all of the episodes we put out are also available as audio-only podcasts, and also we're going for 13,000 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed yet and you've enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Be back tomorrow, hoping to have a Villa expert on at that stage as well. Speak to you then.